Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the New World podcast here at Capistrano Valley Christian Schools. I'm Mr. Jasper, the educational technologist here at the school, and I'm here again with Mr. Mark Robertson, our English teacher who is heading up this project with his classes. The episode today comes to us from students Lucy and Natalie, and their episode is titled The Bonds That Make Us. So, Mr. Robertson, can you tell us a little bit about what Lucy and Natalie share in this episode?
Yeah, so they focus on the novel's vision of a society without family or any other intimate relationships. And I think they carefully and thoughtfully argue that while family does cause a lot of pain and dysfunction, most of our sense of meaning, identity, belonging are all bound up with our closest human bonds. Yeah, they do a great job.
Excellent. Thank you so much again for this. And at this time, we're going to go to the episode. And so here is Lucy and Natalie's episode, The Bonds That Make Us.
Hi, welcome to our podcast. My name is Lucy.
My name is Natalie.
And today we're going to be discussing intimacy and fornication through the eyes of a nihilist dystopian society, like we just recently read in Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. So our first topic is just going to be about family life, pregnancy, how that has to do with Linda and John, as well as Lenina and John's relationship. So the first question is, what makes a family important to society or important to an individual person?
A family is important to society because it creates a foundation in a particular person, in every person, and it creates this uniqueness, and it allows the person to develop who they are and become someone.
Yeah, I agree with that because every family is different and the structure is different, especially with different cultures and different societies. So that kind of creates different people. And Lenina and John had not been able to have this upbringing, especially with Linda, and like her motherhood was so messed up. So, and Lenina never even had a mother. So that was a very difficult situation for both of them. They had nothing to go off of in their relationship. So next I'll ask, how do the behaviors of the characters in Brave New World stem from not having parents or a parental figure? So I'd say parental figures are important to society because it's kind of something to go off of for children, and growing up with like a stable relationship between a mother and father can really help a child just develop their natural sense of like emotions and how they should use that with another person. For example, if somebody has like a really messed up home life or really messed up parents and they've never really seen a good relationship between them, then they could like replicate those emotions and that relationship for their future. Especially like Lenina and John really don't even have that relationship at all. They don't even know what that is. So they have nowhere to put those emotions that they're experiencing. And they don't even know how to respond to it.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. And the lack of parental figure causes children to experience coldness from the day that they're born, making it difficult to create a sustainable and morally worthy society. Linda is torn by the splitting of her soul between innate motherhood and the pleasure of the world state.
Okay, so another good question would be, how do you think pregnancy, motherhood, and marriage affects a child, and would the world be better off without the hassle of pregnancy?
I think pregnancy is a super important thing because it's the beginning between a mom and a child, and it's a special bond between them. And even so, it says like the opposite of meaningless is pregnancy, and pregnancy is the beginning of this relationship. But if there's no bond between that, then there's going to be some issues between both the mother and the child.
Another interesting thing is that 2/3 of the women in the world state are chemically made to be infertile, and the others are required to use contraceptives in order to avoid pregnancy, which means there's 0 natural birth, 0 pregnancy, and that means no family or motherly relationships at all in that society. So it kind of makes you wonder if that's kind of the root of all the coldness in Brave New World, because they don't even have a mother. They don't know who their mother is. The concept doesn't even exist to them. So So just to discuss like in our own lives how our mothers are important, I think we definitely look up to the woman in our family at like being women ourselves. We just kind of take notes from them and like replicate what we see in their relationships with their husband and as a mother and how they raise us and that whole type of thing.
Yeah, and even then I look to my mother, like she's such a good reflection on what a woman of God looks like. And I think it's so important for us to view that, because if we don't have something to look up to, then it's just going to be chaotic. And it's just a most important foundation in our life, because we'll never discover who we truly are if we don't have anything to look up to.
So now we're going to move into the second topic, which is just fornication, sex, Linda and John's relationship, how John wants love and Lenina's over here sleeping around. So there's a huge contrast in between their views on that. Also how Linda raised John, and then how sexual relations differ on the reservation versus in the world state. All right, so the first question is, why do most people in Brave New World see sexual relationships as nothing more than an entertainment or as an emotional outlet?
So in the story, Mond, the world controller, keeps forbidden books, such as Bibles and poetry collections, locked in a safe, which then causes many issues with people, because if no one has anything to look at or any reference, then they're never going to experience what true love is.
And they don't even know what that is. And then another interesting thing is that the early exposure to sexual acts, while simultaneously removing any intimate or warm relationship towards children, kind of conditions them to feel a limited emotional connection. And there's a quote that on page 32 that says, "Before the time of our Ford, erotic play between children had been regarded as abnormal, and there was a roar of laughter." So I think that just kind of shows how they don't see it as anything but fun or anything as an emotional release. There's no like intimacy or relationship. And there's also the lack of need for any like reproductive connections. Like they don't need to have babies, they don't need to give birth or anything. So sex just becomes an entertainment or outlet. Okay, so how do you think the sexual relationships on the world state differ from the ones on the reservation?
The world state is just completely blindsided by the whole fact that sex is just a common thing, and they basically are dosed into the sexual mindset. And in the reservation, John is not really experiencing the true meaning of love either, because his mother, Linda, was being... The book isn't totally clear, but she's being raped in a sense that... And he has to look at this and see this division between him and his mother.
And that's also like the only sexual relationship he's ever seen or ever been aware of, was that like kind of violent and intense relationship between that man and his mother. And another interesting thing is that John came from the director and Linda, which it was like this forbidden relationship, and he was raised wanting love rather than the sexual relationships due to how he was like reading Shakespeare and the morals and that. He was definitely excluded from the society of the world state, which is all about like sexual pleasure and gratification. So that's kind of the opposite of Lenina, how she's been raised with like such differing morals and sleeping around. So we hope you enjoyed our podcast and got some new insight into Brave New World through our different perspectives on this topic, and thank you so much for listening.
New Worlds is a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools podcast network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK-12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. For more information, please visit cbcs.org. And finally, if you have any questions or comments about our podcasts, please email podcasts@cbcs.org. Thank you again so much for listening, and be sure to subscribe to the feed to stay up to date with us.